Welcome to Morning Joan, the podcast where we dish out the latest scoop on all things entertainment. I'm your host, Joan, and I'm so glad you're joining me today. So let's dive right in. Have you been keeping up with the latest news on Netflix's hit series Squid Game? Well, if not, don't worry, because we've got the tea. The show's creator, Dong-hyuk, recently sat down for an interview to talk about the final season of the show, and let me tell you, he spilled all the beans. Apparently, Hwang had a very clear vision for the show from the beginning, and he always knew how he wanted it to end. He said that working on Squid Game for the past 6 years has been a wild ride, filled with pressure and stress, but also incredible moments and opportunities. And now that the final season is out, he's feeling a mix of emotions, relief, sadness, and gratitude. But what's really interesting is what Hwang had to say about the casting choices for the show. You may recall that there was some controversy surrounding the casting of Park Sung-hoon as a transgender character, with many international viewers expressing disappointment and frustration. Hwang acknowledged the backlash and explained that in Korea, there aren't many openly trans actors available for roles like that. However, he also shared a heartwarming story about how an American trans influencer reached out to him and expressed her love for the character, which made him feel happy and relieved. And as for what's next for Squid Game, Hwang laughed off the idea of a 4th season, but did mention that he might be open to a spin-off. He said that many people are curious about the backstories of some of the characters, and that could be a fun way to explore those stories further. Well, it looks like that's all the time we have for now. We'll be right back with more tea on Morning Joan. Welcome back to Morning Joan, darling. I hope you're all still buzzing from our first segment about the latest happenings in the world of K-dramas. Now let's dive into the wonderful world of fashion, shall we? I've got a story that's just too delightful to keep to myself. You know how sometimes brands try to connect with us through storytelling? Well, Bode has cracked the code, and I'm obsessed. For their Spring 2026 collection, Emily Adams' Bode Aujla took inspiration from her distant relative, the late American composer and musical theater figure Maurice Moose Charlap Beat. Yes, you heard that right. A fashion collection inspired by a musical genius. The collection, titled The Expressionist, is a love letter to Charlap's life and work, with styles that evoke the post-impressionist landscape of Paris. And here's the fascinating part. Bode Aujla recruited Charlap's son, Bill Charlap, a classical pianist himself, to perform some of his late father's work at the presentation. Can you imagine being in a salon at the Théâtre National de l'Opéra Comique, surrounded by live piano and singing? It gives me goosebumps just thinking about it. But what really caught my attention was the way Bode Aujla presented the collection. Instead of a traditional runway show, she created these adorable dollhouse-esque scenes with 12-inch dolls dressed in miniature versions of the clothes. I mean, who wouldn't want to see their designs come to life in a tiny, perfect world? It's like something out of a fairy tale. And let me tell you, the attention to detail is stunning. The miniatures are made from the same fabrics as the full-size clothes, and Bode Aujla even stripped away yarns to make the knitwear smaller. It's clear that this collection is a labor of love, and I am here for it. Now, I know what you're thinking, Joan, this all sounds very charming, but what about the clothes themselves? Well, my friends, the collection is just as enchanting as the presentation. With inspiration from Peter Pan and Alice through the looking glass, the clothes are a perfect blend of whimsy and sophistication. As Bode Aujla said herself, exploring childhood fantasy is apt right now, especially since she's just had her 2nd child. And I think that's what makes this collection so special. It's not just about the clothes, it's about the story behind them, the emotions they evoke, and the connections they make. So there you have it, folks. Bode has cracked the storytelling leads to sales formula, and I couldn't be more excited to see what's next for this talented designer. Stay tuned for today's last cup of tea right here on Morning Joan. Welcome back to Morning Joan, darlings. We're closing out today's show with a dose of reality. And I'm not talking about the latest Kardashian drama. No. Today we're diving into something that really matters. You know I love my celebrities, but when they use their platforms for good, it's like music to my ears. So let's talk about Charlize Theron, shall we? The stunning actress and activist recently spoke out at her 5th annual Charlize Theron Africa Outreach Program block party, and honey, she did not hold back. She addressed the devastating cuts to foreign aid, immigration policy, women's rights, and LGBTQ issues, saying the world feels like it's burning because it is. I mean, can you feel the fire, darlings? Theron also highlighted the importance of resistance and hope, emphasizing that we all have the power to make a difference. And let me tell you, this woman practices what she preaches. Her organization has supported over 4.5 million youth in Southern Africa and granted $15 million to organizations in the region. That's what I call putting your money where your mouth is, sweethearts. Now, I know some of you might be thinking, Joan, this all sounds so serious. And you're right, it is. But here's the thing. When we have people like Charlize Theron using their platforms to raise awareness and inspire change, it's like a beacon of hope in a world that can sometimes feel overwhelming. So, let's take a page out of Theron's book, shall we? Let's use our own voices to make a difference, whether it's through activism, volunteering, or simply being an ally to those who need it. We all have the power to be the change we want to see in the world. And on that note, darlings, I want to leave you with a quote from the incomparable Charlize Theron: all lives should be valued. Everyone should have the right to be healthy and safe, and should be able to be seen. Let's make sure we're seeing and hearing each other, shall we? That's all for today's Morning Joan. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. And until next time, stay fabulous.